meeting is being recorded.
All right. So,
I was saying, you have a class today.
Be quiet.
all right. So, Janelle, I'm going to get started. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Josanne from Tobago. Josanne James Beckles. Might be my family. That's my maiden name.
Ah,
So
lovely.
welcome. All right. So everyone, we are so happy to have you here. Welcome. Alicia Foster Collins, welcome. We have a few more persons. Let me just get a couple of more in before we get started, and we will let them in as the night continues. So tonight we have with us, welcome Fawn. We have with us, I'm just gonna mute everyone for now. And Janelle, you can go ahead and unmute yourself, right? So good night, good evening, everyone. Welcome. We are very happy to have you here with us for another session. And this evening session, we are very happy to have with us Janelle. And I'm just going to give you a brief introduction to Janelle so that you get to know a little bit about her background, and to know that, you know, you're really hearing from an expert, right? Somebody who has loads of experience. So Janelle is a digital transformation partner and advocate. So Janelle, you can let people in while I read your bio, right? So Janelle brings over 20 years experience in the financial services industry and public sector, with expertise spanning several areas: business and digital transformation, process design and re-engineering, IT governance, IT service desk management and operations, IT audit, risk and controls, project management, finance, procurement, recruitment and selection, and leadership and team building. In recent years, she has led the design and implementation of digital transformation projects, driving innovation and organizational excellence. Janelle is passionate about identifying improvement opportunities and designing value-driven solutions that accelerate growth and deliver measurable impact. A past vice president of both ISACA, formerly Information Systems Audit and Control Association, and Toastmasters International, Janelle maintains a strong commitment to developing leaders at every level. She is an advocate of distinguished, non-traditional, and courageous leadership, and believes in the power of intentional, credible, authentic, and meaningful relationships to inspire people and make a positive difference. Janelle also has a special interest in helping people find the best versions of themselves. She enjoys giving back to her community by providing personal and career development, coaching, and mentorship to the young and the young at heart. She's a proud parent of an up-and-coming IT engineer and youth pastor who is actually here to support his mommy today. I saw him. So, Janelle, without further ado, I'm going to hand over to you to do your thing. So welcome again, everyone.
Oh gosh, thank you so much. Great evening, everyone. And how are you all doing today? Well, I'm seeing everyone online and they continue to fill the room. So welcome, welcome. My name is Janelle Vasquez. Among many hats, daughter, parent, student of life, digital transformation partner, and advocate for people-centered innovation. Director of Chilak Business Consulting. I cannot say enough, but I am so deeply honored to be here with you today. And I'd like to thank Mrs. Leanne Pale for the lovely introduction. She's so eloquent. And for the opportunity to be part of 21st century educators' exciting journey. You know, when Leanne invited me to deliver a training session today, and I told her that I'd like to share on leadership, I could tell she was a bit curious as to my choice of topic. But for me, I know what it feels like to grow up without access to resources, guidance, or mentors. Coming up from very humble beginnings, there were moments where I either wished someone could have helped me see beyond my circumstances, or believe in what I couldn't see for myself. Now, as an adult, I have the privilege to be that change that I longed for. And so every time that I lead or I train, I feel as though I'm opening doors and building bridges, equipping my colleagues with opportunities, with insights, encouragement, especially for those who may feel unseen or under resourced. So, this is my way of planting seeds of hope, growth, and possibility, just like I once needed someone to do for me. So, this is the passion that I bring to my delivery. And for that, I thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules. I know that the new semester is upon us. So, thank you for being here with us, for giving us your attention and your participation. So, what do we hope to achieve in today's session? In today's session, we're not just learning about leadership, we're stepping into a journey of growth, of courage, of authentic connection. Today, we're unlocking the heart of leadership itself. And together, we'll discover how self awareness, how connection, and courage can inspire transformation in ourselves and those we lead. But I'm really interested to hear from you first. Using the chat in one or two words, tell me, what is the most difficult part of being a leader? Don't rush at once. What are the one or two words that come to mind? A fear, having the difficult conversations. Kizzy, getting buy-in from all. Lydia, managing staff. Ingrid, dealing with conflict. Sarah, when the people under you do not cooperate. Kalisha, inspiring others. Diane Parker, lonely at the top. Tell me about it, Diane. Um, Roni Alexis, making hard decisions, resistance to change. I absolutely love this feedback because you know what? It tells me that the material that I prepared today, it's going to be very applicable to all of these scenarios that you've just listed here. And I'm really excited to just share with you. So thank you so much for sharing in the chat. I really appreciate it. So opening thought. Over the past 21 years of leading people and teams, I've gathered lessons that didn't just come from success. Some came through failures, honest reflection, and you know what? The courage to try again. So, what I'll share with you this evening are principles and practices that helped to shape me. And I believe that they can also open new pathways of leadership in your own teaching spaces. Now, wanted to talk a little bit about the engagement in this session. So, this session is not meant to be a one-way talk. It's not a monologue. I'm really interested in hearing your voices, your questions, your perspectives. If something resonates with you and sparks deeper reflection, please take note. And I want you to see it as an invitation, not to feel guilty, but to revisit, to realign, and to grow. If questions arise where more focused time is needed, I assure you I'd be more than happy to take note and respond to you individually after this session. Fair enough? Now, some of what I'll share are areas that I admit do come naturally to me. And I would have mentioned earlier that In other places, it's lessons where I once failed, but intentionally chose to learn from. If there's one set of skills I've tried to master, and I would encourage you to do the same, it's being totally and completely honest and transparent with yourself, staying introspective, taking corrective action, and committing to being better for each new day. Now, my own leadership journey has dovetailed different eras of leadership styles. Some of us would have come up under the old industrial age model, very rigid, very authoritarian, hierarchical. And in that model, well, you know some of the tenets. Authority was unquestioned. Students or team members were expected to be silent and compliant. Communication flowed in one direction from top down. Control and punishment were the tools of choice, unfortunately. And it was a model where we saw people with clear lines of stature. So, subordinates or students with a relationship dynamic of do not bring your home problems to work or to school. But, let's be honest, that style is outdated. It does not work in today's digital and information age. Why is that? Because the world now demands creativity, innovation, collaboration, and above all, trust. And that brings me to the first lesson in today's webinar: connection before instruction. Or, as I like to say, from the classroom to the heart room. Now, today I won't be giving you a whole host of prescriptive theories or checklists. We could go online for that, right? What we'll be talking about today is what truly changes lives is our ability to create genuine, caring connections. Now, you think with all the tools to communicate, the WhatsApp, the Zoom, a whole host of different tools, we would think that connection would be easier, right? But paradoxically, it has become harder. So, titles, degrees, accolades matter less than this. When you've interacted with someone, I want to challenge you. What is the legacy that you want to leave with that person or that group? What do they walk away with? Do they sense that you truly see them? Do people feel that you care about them? And for me, this was shaped by my faith, actually. I looked at how Jesus Christ connected with people in the scriptures across different backgrounds, whatever type of flaws and differences. He acknowledged people's humanity and engaged with them in conversation and offered hope to their deepest needs. And that kind of connection transforms. So now for the fun part. So how do we authentically connect with others? And this is a part in today's webinar where I would invite some feedback. Leanne, I don't know if it is that we could unmute mics for just 2 minutes, because I'm going to ask the question in 30 seconds or less. In an interaction where you might have had with, if it's a customer service rep, a manager, a principal, what was the difference between the one who left you feeling
Janelle, sorry. You're muted.
Yes. So let me ask the question again. For this exercise, in 30 seconds or less, in an interaction that you might have had with a customer service representative or a manager or principal, what was the difference between the one who left you feeling cold and one who made you feel valued? What exactly did these two persons do? Anyone?
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Hi, Janelle from Belize.
Janelle from
Um,
Belize, welcome.
yes, thank you. Well, one of the things that I noticed, I've changed. Well, the school has changed four principals since I've been there, and the one previous to this one, what he did is he made you feel heard and acted on, your opinions, but acted upon whatever you shared that was positive for the school. So he made me feel heard, and he acted upon, suggestions that I would have given, or any teacher would have given, as opposed to those that are the one that we have now and the previous ones. They are more into micromanaging and not really getting your opinion or getting, your suggestions for the school. So yeah, being heard.
Janelle, thank you
Thank you.
so much for saying that. I really
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
And it seemed to have resonated with a common thread from the chat um, inputs that I'm seeing. Antoinette spoke about people who actively listened, one that gave a listening ear, giving full attention while in front of you. Empathy, we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. So we seem to be having a common theme of experiencing not being heard. Roni Alexis, that sounds like a very interesting comment. Smile against tyrant. Um, and we talked about Yomanda being valued. Excellent, everyone, and I really appreciate your feedback. So what I'll do, we'll continue.
Marsha had her hand up. I don't know if she still
Oh,
wants to add.
excellent, Marshall.
It's okay because I think everyone covered in the comments as well as the verbal one.
Okay, all right, no worries. Thank you so much, Marsha. Anyone else? One last person. Okay, Rowan, thank you. All right, and we spoke. I think Arlene spoke about giving full attention while they're in front of you. Arlene, we're actually also going to cover that today as well. So as we continue, here are a few simple yet profound, what I like to call priority practices. A person's favorite sound is their name. Remember your student's name. Remember your report's name. In a world where so many people feel invisible, hearing your name is a gift. Why? Because it says, I see you, you matter, and you are remembered. The second priority practice that I recommend, engaging in small, genuine conversations. How are you doing today? What's wrong? Then listening deeply. Listening with a genuine curiosity and not listening to respond. How I like to say it is that consider that everyone you meet, irrespective of their age, irrespective of their gender, social status, can teach you something. And add to the other side of the coin, it's not what you say, but how you say it. And I'm not talking about your ability to be bilingual or multilingual, although I'm sure that will certainly help. But it's raising your level of awareness and I think that Arlene would have mentioned it earlier in the webinar. Is your back turned when you're asking me how I am? Does your body show genuine interest? A fourth priority practice: can you adapt your language, your tone, so people can truly hear you when forming your connection, when building a relationship with those around you? Can you hear what is not being said? And this takes me way back in my earlier years. Promoted at the age of 22 in a male dominated IT sector at a large conglomerate in the financial services industry to lead IT service desk analysts, and by extension, also managing ad hoc teams for IT infrastructure projects, such as third party contractors who had to do things like put in electrical conduits before my colleagues install the wiring and set up equipment and so. And most, if not all of these persons were older than I, many of them more than twice my age. But in that situation, what's a young lady to do? First, I knew that I knew that I knew that I was anointed to be there at that time to serve the people I was placed to lead and to execute with excellence, because that is part of my core values. These experts in their fields all knew more than I. Many came from the industrial style working conditions and using industrial style language, if you know what I mean. So, fun times. But here was the challenge: I needed updates to quickly make decisions and move the ball forward. And I quickly realized that there was some of them that were struggling to articulate updates, not because of the lack of knowledge, but something else. And others appeared very cold with me and not very responsive. And of course, being in the leadership position that I was given, if I don't know what's going on, I could not resolve issues that could impact deadlines. In self reflecting, I asked myself first, is there something that, or anything that I was either doing or not doing to contribute to my colleagues having to work hard to sanitize or articulate updates? And one of the observations I made was looking at them from afar and noticing how they communicated amongst themselves without me, but with fluidity. So I decided I would switch up my language a bit and adapted the formality of my language based on the group I was speaking with. So for some people, it was, hello, how are you? How was your vacation, or how was your weekend? For others, it was a full blown colloquial style. Yeah, what happening? And I know that sounds really small, but you would not believe that that small shift of breaking the ice, so to speak, broke down barriers, started the ball rolling on building trust, and solidified for me that leadership is not about age, gender, or rank, but more about meeting people where they are so we can move forward together. Now, I can't say that it was smooth sailing from then on, but what I can say is that I've been invited to my fair share of weddings, baby christenings, and I still get social media friend requests, including from one who unfortunately I had to let go of. But notwithstanding, we are great friends today. But that's a conversation for another seminar. And I'll tell you something: there are significant benefits from keen observation, and intentional listening that all come with forming genuine, authentic relationships. One, it prevents you from being blindsided. Why? Why do you say that? Because information comes to you outside of formal settings, so that to enable you to be able to do something. You ever heard the saying, the decision happens in the meeting before the meeting? That's where that comes from. One of the other benefits of intentional listening as part of forming healthy, authentic connections is that it enables you to de escalate faster and empowers you to give correction in a way that your message can be truly received in the helpful spirit which it was intended. When people feel genuinely seen and understood, your words don't just correct, they inspire change. So I hope, at least until this time, that everybody is understanding. Um, and again, as questions come up, Leanne, if it is that you could just take note of the questions, and if it's areas where I could respond to, um, at the moment I can. If not, I'll table it to respond to later. Story time. Now, this reminds me of what I would call, or what I would like to call, a near brawl incident. A heated exchange between two students, a young male student who I had taken the time to get to know, and a female student. I stepped in very quickly as I was hearing that verbal altercation, raised voices. And I believe that I was able to get the attention of the male student because we had already established a connection before. And in the conversations, I learned about his obsession with football. And I believe that he knew that I genuinely cared for him. Now, as we were able to both walk away from the situation, I could feel his anger reaching a near crescendo. But I also knew about his dream of becoming a professional footballer. So naturally, I used that bridge. I told him that part of what makes an A class professional athlete isn't just skill on the field, but the ability to channel his emotions in healthy, constructive ways. And while I'm no football guru, I brought up the incident at the 2006 FIFA World Cup final, with Zinedine Zidane headbutted Materazzi in the chest, got a red card, he received a 3-game ban, and was fined by FIFA. In just a few more months, so much of what he worked hard for was damaged. And I reminded this young man, this very promising young man, not to compromise his dream and the legacy that he wanted to build, not just for himself, but his family, no matter what the provocation was. And just like that, he was able to regulate and choose differently. Now, he had always been a very high energy type of lad. So I even encouraged him to do a sprint around the school, which he laughed and returned with a smile. But I firmly believe that part of that success story was owing to the fact that I abided by the same principles that I spoke about earlier: observation, attentive listening, just having very small, informal conversations, and getting to know the persons around me. Now, what we'll do at this point in time is that we'll close this first segment of today's webinar. And what I'd like to emphasize here is that connection before instruction isn't just a teaching technique, it's a leadership mindset. And when we lead from the heart room, not just the classroom, we create spaces where people feel safe enough to let the walls come down a bit, to communicate, to grow and thrive. Many students, well, not just many students, but many people are carrying silent hurts. And a moment of recognition can open the door to healing and trust. Now, this leads me to lesson number 2, the second half of the segment of today's webinar, leading from the inside out. Now, before I start the second segment of today's presentation, I'd love to hear from you again, this time in the chat. From your neck of the woods, who's the hardest or most challenging person, team, or group to lead? Before you answer, though, there's a caveat. Please do not call any names or place any identifiers. Fair enough? So, again, the question, I'd love to hear from you. Who's the hardest or most challenging person, team, or group to lead? Colette says adults and male. Ruth said my children. Stephanie, teachers, colleagues. Those who feel they know it all. Thank you, Reka. Ones who choose to be rebellious. That sounds like an interesting story. Teachers who are parents. Someone who thinks they know everything. Older teacher, Magdaleno says. Morticia is going into dangerous territory talking about bipolar persons. Persons who are resisted to change, demotivated staff. Yes, Kizzy? Persons who pride themselves on being difficult. Those with a fixed mindset. Staff who cannot take accountability. Disgruntled individuals. Okay. I love the feedback from today's session. Pessimists, Janelle says. Unhappy teachers. We have a lot of unhappy people today. So we are tasked with quite a responsibility as leaders, I must say. Persons with a negative bias. Underpaid workers. Everyone, thank you again. Thank you again so much for sharing your thoughts. And I could say that I've certainly encountered the scenarios or situations that you've named here in the chat. So again, we have quite a responsibility ahead of us. So here's my thought, and I think I saw it in one of the responses there in the chat. In my experience, the hardest person to lead is our own selves. And bridging from our segment earlier, connection before instruction, over the years, what I'm noticing is a place where some of us struggle most. The ability to connect with ourselves first. And why is that? Now, one reason is that, at least I think so, is because we've just lost touch with ourselves. Life is life in relationships, responsibilities, work, children, studies. And in the busyness of it all, what happens? We forget to pause and truly check in with ourselves. And to cope, we sometimes disconnect, almost like going on autopilot just to survive the trials of life. But when we lose that inner self connection, what we risk is that we also lose the ability to connect deeply with others. Yes? If I am not in tune with how I'm doing today, how I'm feeling, my emotions, my struggles, how can I be present enough to recognize and respond to someone else's? And that's why self awareness and self leadership, they're not optional, they're foundational. A leader who is present to themselves can be present to others. A teacher who takes time to reflect on their own emotional and spiritual well being is far better equipped to notice when a student's smile is hiding pain, or when a colleague's silence is really a cry for support. So, the journey to authentic connections with others actually begins from within. So, before I can ask someone, how are you? With sincerity, I need to first ask myself the same question and be willing to face the answer honestly. Now, we just outlined one reason why some of us struggle to connect with others. The second reason, I believe, is that some leaders are still holding on for dear life to those old paradigms of leadership, models rooted in distance, ultra stoicism, and control. In those styles, the leader is expected to remain detached, unemotional, and always in command. But what has the world seen in this type of model or methodology? That approach creates walls and not bridges. And if we're honest, it's an approach that simply does not resonate with today's younger generations, the Gen Zs, the Gen Alphas. These are generations that value authenticity, transparency, and emotional connection. They don't just want to be told what to do, they want to know why. I want to know why. They don't respond to command and control, they respond to collaboration and respect. So if we lead with distance and rigid authority, we'll quickly find ourselves just out of touch and ineffective. And when we lead from the inside out, with self awareness, with vulnerability and genuine care, we not only earn their attention, we gain their trust. And trust, more than titles or techniques, is what gives us influence in this new era of leadership. Either way, my personal view is that authentic connection with noble intention has become a strained art. But I'm here to tell you this evening that it's possible to reclaim. Now, in this slide, I'm introducing a 4-step framework to reclaim authentic connection with yourself and with others. It's listed in an acronym called RACT: Reflect, Align, Check, Transform. And we'll go through the description within the next few minutes. Step 1: reflect or self reflection. Take the time to pause. Take the time to check in with yourself. Ask, am I present? Am I leading with authenticity? Or am I just surviving the busyness of life? This creates self awareness, the foundation for authentic leadership. And for some of us who may be aware, before taking communion, for instance, at church, one of the prerequisites is that if you're not, or I should say, if it is that you have unrepentant sin, you ought not to take communion at that particular time. So, similarly, if you confess to yourself, be honest with yourself, you may have wronged someone, you may have spoken in a disrespectful manner to someone, you may have not honored a commitment. The first step is acknowledging that to yourself. You know, it reminds me of Psalm 139, 23, 24. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there's anything offensive in me and lead me in the way everlasting. So I'm encouraging you, take the first step and self-reflect. The second step, it is to align. Clarify your intentions. Ask yourself honestly, do I truly want to connect with people? Or am I just going through the motions of leadership? They put me here, so let me just do what I need to do and go home. Because if that is the position that we're embracing, we may be doing ourselves and those who we lead a disservice. Authentic connection requires genuine desire, not performance. So, for instance, I'll share some scenarios. For the introverts online, leadership isn't about being the loudest in the room. It's about bringing clarity, vision, and courage. Even quiet voices can lead with strength and leave lasting impact. For some of us, we are actually on the road to embody leader, but we might be having some barriers, some problems in moving over the line because we may have been hurt by colleagues, for instance. However, I need to share some tough love with you this evening because this condition or circumstance does not disqualify you from discharging your duties as a leader. If anything, this type of situation will refine your strength because true leaders rise above the pain and choose to lead with wisdom, discernment, and grace. You know, the scriptures also talk about Jesus telling Peter to forgive, not just 7 times, but 70 times 7. So, part of your job here this evening might be to exercise some grace and forgiveness. Alignment and clarifying our intentions really requires us to examine ourselves, and being real. And there's been so many misconceptions over the years, over the decades, on what a leader is. I think that we've lulled ourselves into false leader archetypes. And it may be wise of us to be aware of the implications of those misconceptions. The myths proven to be untrue. So, for instance, and ladies and gents, we're keeping things real here this evening, right? If we are seeking recognition of ourselves only at all costs and not the team, we may get the recognition, but we will lose true followers. If we seek image without pulling up our sleeves and helping to get the work done, we may get the title, but we risk our ability and the trust needed to keep the position. If we are focused on just getting deliverables done or accomplished, keep in mind that we might be creating a task oriented atmosphere. And we'll miss out on the true essence of people and what they bring, the creativity, the brilliance of each of your team members to make magic happen, not just for the current, but sustainably. And if we believe leadership is about command and control, we can, in hindsight, create a culture of compliance. And yes, people just doing the bare minimum and forfeit your gift to be able to multiply energy. Your team's passion, enthusiasm, innovation, all that helps to drive the momentum and stay in power to achieve the objective. Once we're in leadership, we have to understand that it's about serving people. And yes, with sacrifices that we all have to make. And I think it was John Maxwell who stated that everything you gain, you have to give up something. So now we're heading into step 3 of the framework. We spoke about in the first 2 steps examining ourselves. Now we are leaping into examination of ourselves through others' lens. And this is where we invite feedback from trusted voices, from friends, from family, from colleagues, mentors, even past students and managers, principals, school supervisors. And this helps, I believe, tremendously in helping you to see how others experience our leadership, revealing blind spots and strengths. It reminds me that early in my career, I was selected to be part of an exclusive executive mentorship program where only a handful of us were picked from the Caribbean region. One of the most transformative aspects of that experience was confronting the gap between how I saw myself and how others perceived me. Because guess what? There was a gap. And because in leadership, perception often shapes reality. Now, the slide that you're seeing right now, being analytical by nature, I created a questionnaire and shared it with family, with friends, with colleagues at various levels of the organization to gain honest feedback. And the scriptures also reminds us that of how important it is to get feedback. In Proverbs 27:17, as iron sharpens iron, so one person's sharpen another. Because true growth requires not only self-reflection, but also the courage to seek external perspectives that refine us, that strengthen us. Remember, though, that the goal of this exercise is not validation or to be affirmed, but having the courage to be willing to hear, to receive, to process input that may challenge how we see of ourselves. Because we all have blind spots, all of us. And talking about blind spots, any of us here in the gym, just by raise of hands? I can't tell you how many times I could swear my form is perfect until my trainer tells me otherwise. Now, from my perspective, I am nailing it. But my trainer sees what I don't. The slight shift in my posture, the imbalance in my stance, or the way I'm straining in one area without even realizing it. Without someone spotting us every now and then, we can keep repeating poor form and risk injury. And in leadership, if we don't invite others to point out our blind spots, we keep operating in ways that just hold us back or even harm those that we lead. This now takes us to the fourth letter in the framework, RACT. Don't just gather insight, don't just gather intel, apply it. Choose one or two areas to intentionally work on, whether it's listening more, whether it's showing empathy, whether it's reducing your compulsion to control everything. Because small, consistent practice turns awareness into transformation. So, for instance, an application in practice. In this case, so you've examined yourself and you've seen some of your own transgressions, or you've received feedback that was less than complimentary, in that you get defensive when people speak to you. So, what do? First, acknowledge what you've done. Remember your humanity. Everyone makes mistakes, no one is above that. Second, communicate honestly. Apologize sincerely. And by the way, you're not apologizing by saying, I'm sorry that you feel this way. That is not an apology. You have to own your mistake and your part in the misunderstanding. And my mind takes me to a Group C suite leader, very influential man who was headhunted from Fortune 500 companies, a very mighty man, but guess what? Also very humble. And I think true humility is one of the most underrated characteristics in a leader. So, in communicating with the other party or other group or other team, make your intentions known, that you actually want him, her, them to win, that you see them, that you value them, and you appreciate them for X, Y, and Z. And yes, you have to put in the work to rebuild trust. Because yes, it takes intentional work to repair relationship. Show consistency through small, trustworthy actions over time. So yes, I think there was one of the inputs in the chat earlier on today. Yes, leadership is lonely at the top. And that's why we face so much challenges in leadership today, because it takes so much self-work. And to
Janelle,
close,
sorry, before you
yes,
move on, somebody asked if they could see the RAC,
if
the
they can
slide
see
with the RAC.
sure. For the T, I'll have to go down 2 more slides.
And just to let you all know, the session will be sent out so you can view it again.
Yes?
Yes, I think you can continue.
Okay. And to close, not yet takeaways. Leadership is not about titles, it's not about control or authority. It's about connection, influence, and impact. So, as you leave here this evening, I would love for you to remember that the most powerful leader is the one who leads from the inside out. Start with self awareness, build authentic trust, and you will naturally inspire others to follow you. Now, my hope is that you leave here not just with strategies, and a rule book, but with a renewed desire to connect more deeply, first with yourself and with others. So, the call of action today is today we talked about reflection, authenticity, relational trust. Now, the real work begins. And I challenge you to take one leadership shift that you've learned here today and practice it this week. Because leadership transformation doesn't just happen in theory, it happens in action. And that concludes my delivery today. I really do hope that you enjoyed the session, and I would really love to hear from each and every one of you, if we can, if time will permit, on what's one thing that you can take away from today's session. You're most
One
welcome,
time,
Alva.
my name is Kizzy.
Hi, Kizzy. Good evening.
Good evening. There's one thing that you said that really that kind of stuck with me is, start small, but continue doing it. So you start being consistent. So it's like small consistencies. I don't have the exact words that you use, but that um kind of jumped out at me that, sometimes you think that, oh my God, I have to do this, I have to make this change, or I have to deal with this person. But once you're able to implement or to know that we should implement the um the framework at least, one step at a time every day, and those
Excellent.
increments will add up.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kizzy. I really appreciate it. Anyone else? What have you learned anything new today? Anyone? I know for many persons it might have been a reminder.
Good night.
Good night. Good
So
night.
this is Roan, as in bone.
Hi, Ron.
So as you presented, what really stood out to me as I'm thinking of welcoming my students on Monday is to ensure that I first connect with myself, if I'm even thinking of connecting with my students, and to ensure that I build connections before instruction. That really stood out with me.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ron. Yeah, again, there's so much competition for our time, for our attention, and we can easily get distracted or lose ourselves. So, this is an invitation for us to, keep checking in with ourselves first, taking care of ourselves first before others, because we can't pour from an empty cup.
I wanted to say one more thing, Ms. Vasquez. I remember you said that we should remember our students' names because it means a lot to them. Notice how I corrected you when you called me Roni.
Yes,
It does matter. I just wanted to mention that it does matter when our students know that we know their names. Yeah, I just wanted to make that point.
of course, of course. Thank you so much, Ron. Anyone else would like to share anything new that they learned?
Well, good night, everyone.
Good night, Ingrid.
Well, one thing that stood out to me was when you said that we must learn how to listen, not to respond, but
Mhm.
curiosity. And we must listen with the mindset that we can learn from anyone, even our students. So,
Yes,
as leaders, we must remember that we should be lifelong learners. We don't know everything.
that's right.
So any opportunity we get to listen and learn from others will make us even more impactful in what we do. Yes.
Excellent. And when we have that orientation of being willing to learn from others, it actually brings down our defenses, and it almost triggers or activates inspiration within ourselves to learn from the other person and to listen to the other person with intentionality. That's been my experience. And just to be transparent, I also have been guilty of um, listening to responder until I had to check myself as well. So I have been guilty of that as well. Okay.
Lydia
Anyone
has her
else?
hand up. Lydia. Lydia, go
Lydia?
ahead. And Yolanda after.
For me, it was a lot of it was a refresher. And one thing that stood out for me was connection before instruction. And our students do remember the little things. So just the pleasant trees, good morning, how are you? How was your day? You know, that kind of thing. And when we call them by name, they're like, hey, Miss knows my name. It really, it really does make a difference. And yes, when you connect with them first, then they're more inclined to actually get and practice whatever you're teaching. So there is fact in that.
Yes. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing, Lydia.
Yolanda.
The power of the name.
Yolanda. And then
Oh,
Colette.
okay, good night, everyone.
Hi,
Yes, just
Yolanda. Good evening.
good evening. Just piggybacking off of what the lady just said, too. I was looking at the shifting, I think you said in leadership paradigms, and one of the things that that really stood out to me was needing that emotional connection. People now need to know that you care. And so a lot of times before we can actually reach them, they have to know that this person genuinely cares about me and
Mm-hmm.
is not just talking to me because they want something done. And so
Yeah.
I think for a lot of us in leadership, we need to sharpen our emotional intelligence so that we're
Ah,
able to connect to
yes.
students as well as with the persons that we supervise on a not necessarily personal level, but a humane level.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Exactly. And you touched on a very prominent point, emotional intelligence, and suggest that we need the work starts with us. You know, they say charity begins at home. Yes. Excellent. Thank you so much, Yolanda.
Colette.
Good night, everyone.
Hi, Colette. Good evening.
So, I just wanted to say that this session was a good reminder, and it reminded me to do something very important to be more consistent with my journal, my teacher journal, my
Mm,
leadership journal, to
yes.
really check in with myself. And also, when you mentioned that quotation from John C. Maxwell, where you said, with every gain, you have to give up something,
Mm-hmm.
that has me meditating on what have I had to leave behind as I progressed through my career in terms of leadership and so on. And what I recognize is sometimes um, when you are promoted to leadership, you lose some friends.
Mm,
You lose that peer to peer communication. People start treating you differently. And how do you manage with that? How do you grow from that? And how do you, be a leader and still let people know that I am me, I'm still me. It's just that now I have to take more responsibility for what we all do.
yes. Yes. And Colette, you speak to my heart in that particular situation, because that would have happened at multiple times at my career as well. I would have started off as a colleague and then be promoted within that same team. So yes, sometimes we do lose persons who we thought we had the support from, but again, it doesn't negate from us having to discharge our leadership duties without fear or favor. And we do so with kindness and with the values that embodies a true leader, right? But in addition to that, for some of us, what we've had to leave behind is things like our ego, things like the desire to control, some of the things that are in ourselves that we need to let go of and embrace a new version of ourselves.
Hi, so Janelle, I just saw quite a number of people just came in, so I guess the time zone. So I just wanted to indicate to them the video will be sent out. All right, and yeah, we're working on trying to figure out how to identify the time zones a little better because people are now coming in.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
yes. So those of you who have just come in, the session was from, well, it's just finished, but we will send out the video so you can see the session. And of course, we are always open to having discussions further. So if you view the session and you have questions for Janelle, you can send them through our email and we'll get them to her and she will be happy to respond. So I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you so much to Janelle. Obviously, the session was quite impactful, as the many comments and both the ones that you heard as well as the ones in the chat. And I just want to remind everybody to please complete the form. I know a couple of us dropped off already, but if for those, and more people are coming on, for those who were in the session, please fill out the form as well. And of course, we have more sessions coming up, and we may look at doing a workshop in terms of leadership if enough of us are interested, in terms of a longer session where it could be probably a lot more practical, and she can get more into depth. So look out, remember to tell your friends about us, continue building education. And of course, we love to see the Caribbean because that is what 21st Century Educators was built for, right? We want to really build the education system in the Caribbean. So we are very, very, very happy with your attendance and your continued, I love how we interact, right? We are a lovely community and I boast about you all the time. So, so I told Janelle, I said, you're gonna hear from them, So thank you very much, everyone. And we will see you next time. So have a great evening, everyone. And those of you who came on late, we will send you the video. All right.
And thank you so much again, Leanne, 21st Century Educators. Thank you so much for having me. To the participants in today's workshop, thank you so much again for your attention, for all of your questions and comments. I'm really, really happy about how it turned out. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you again.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.